Between our YouTube channel and other YouTube channels out there, there are hundreds of thousands of production tutorials showing you how to make your mixes better, showing you how to make your production sound like XYZ artist, showing you all the cool tips and tricks inside of your DAW to make you a better producer or songwriter or engineer or artist. However, I think that there are some really simple things that a lot of those videos don't talk about that you can do outside of your DAW that can make you a much better musician, producer, whatever your kind of specific field is in music. I think that these will all help a ton. So in this video, I want to talk about 5 really simple things. This video is going to be more of a kind of talking head video, so this is not one that you're going to need to watch super closely. So if you want to just have this one on in the background, almost like a podcast, let's do it. I'm going to talk about 5 things, but before we do, my name is Austin. You're watching Make Pop Music. We have videos like this every single Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, so if you like this video, please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know what you want to see down below in the comments, and if you comment within the first 3 days of this video being live, you will be entered for our giveaway. We choose one winner at random every single week. We'll just pick you randomly out of the comments, and we will announce that on our Instagram, and we will respond to your comment. You can pick any sample pack, preset pack, or MIDI pack that you want from makepopmusic.com. All you have to do is leave a comment within the first 3 days. Let's go ahead and let's talk about some of these tips. The first thing that I think every producer or artist or songwriter should be doing is studying how live instruments are actually played a little bit more, or actually picking up a live instrument and learning how to play it yourself. I love that the barrier of entry is so low for production. I love that anybody can just hop on a laptop on GarageBand or Reaper or any other free software and essentially make a whole song. However, I think that has come at the detriment of people really understanding how instruments are kind of classically played. Things like learning how a guitar is played, focusing on how a drummer actually plays the drum set. Even if you don't actually pick up those instruments and learn them, I highly suggest watching a bunch of YouTube videos of people playing them, watching people perform with them, watching people, gear shop for them, because what you'll start to pick up is you'll start to understand the techniques that are used with every individual instrument. So for instance, a big one that I'm a proponent of is drums, right? We can all program drums in our DAW. It is super simple, but I think that there's a big difference between people who program drums well and people who just kind of program drums. And I think that the big difference is that if you can understand how a drummer would actually play a lick or would actually play a fill or where their right hand and left hand would be, I think you can program drums that feel and sound a lot more realistic. A lot of the issue with programmed drums is normally that there's just too much stuff happening. A drummer wouldn't really be able to play that, or a drummer just wouldn't play that because the lick wouldn't feel natural in their hands. And so if you can study how a drum set is laid out, if you can study how somebody would do something like a fill, or how they're going to fall back in the pocket a little bit and how that will create kind of its own little certain vibe, if you can study that on that instrument, you will start to understand that in your DAW. Same goes with if you need to program, fake guitar, if you need to program fake violin. If you can understand how a violinist is going to actually, bow something and how there's going to be that tension and that rise, and if you can learn language like staccato and legato and pizzicato, you'll be shocked how much easier it is to actually go in and program those things to sound realistic. It is not a coincidence that, somebody like Hans Zimmer could score an entire film just inside a DAW because he understands how that orchestra actually works. He's seen it played a million times, and he knows every little keystroke he needs to do, every little velocity he needs to automate, every single, performer that would actually be playing during a performance piece. So study up on real musicians, study up on real instruments. It does help more than you'll ever realize. The second thing that I want to suggest is sometimes it helps to actually change your scenery or change your workflow. If you find yourself getting stuck with writer's block a lot and you feel like you're always just kind of like, I don't really know what I want to make next. I don't really know how to kind of like get myself out of this funk. To me, what's been helping a lot lately is actually getting outside of my room. I spend a lot of my time in this room that you see behind me, and I love it. I've made my dream studio. I have no regrets. However, sometimes it's nice to just, pack up a laptop and go work at a kitchen table or at a coffee shop. Or I just did a vlog where we did a little writing camp in a cabin. And sometimes just by moving your scenery, you can be inspired by other things. You can get something like natural light in. You can limit your gear so you don't have as many options. That's another thing that I really like doing is even if I am sticking in the studio, if I have really bad writer's block, what I'll do is I will just limit myself. So maybe one plugin or one analog synth, and I'll just try to make an idea off of that. And what that does is because I'm limiting my gear down so much, I kind of just have to make decisions quick. I kind of just have to pick a sound and move on. I can't sit there and flip through preset after preset after preset and try Omnisphere, then try Serum, then try Anna 2, then try Arturia, then try, a Moog. sometimes just pick something and go with it. Almost any modern piece of music equipment will be able to make a full song. So just limit your gear, and if that doesn't work, limit your space. Go work somewhere else. Get out of a small little box room. Go, be out in the world. Go make a song by a pool. Don't even make a song on a laptop. Just grab something like an acoustic guitar and go write, in the woods. Go do something that is not your typical workflow. I think that when you have patterns can be really great for something like discipline, but patterns can also start to just kind of be exactly that. You kind of just fall into it and you stop thinking critically, you stop getting super, super creative, you stop problem solving. Sometimes when you take the pattern away and you put yourself out in a different scenario, you would be shocked how quickly and easily it is to come up with ideas that you might not have had in your typical workflow, in your typical room, with your typical gear. The third thing that I want to talk about is I feel like more people should try to diversify their artistic references. And that means listening to different genres of music, watching different, genres of film, going and looking at real art in person at something like an art gallery, maybe, studying and kind of getting into fashion, getting into interior design. I think that there are so many cool references and inspirations and, muses out there that are not just your typical, top 40s pop. This is a channel where we make a lot of pop music. I do listen to a lot of pop. I need to understand the trends. I have clients that are going to have references. I need to know what the new Tate McRae record sounds like, or the new Sabrina Carpenter record, or the new Chappell Roan record. I do need to know those things. However, sometimes it is huge to just spend a week not listening to pop music. As long as I know what's going on and I can understand references as they're sent, sometimes it's really, really nice to just say, you know what, this week I am listening to jazz a little bit. This week, I'm going to listen to old soul and funk. This week, I'm going to listen to disco. This week, I'm going to listen to, 2000s alternative emo rock. This week, I'm going to listen to folk. I think that what that does is it builds up a bunch of different tools and techniques and different styles of songwriting or composing music. And so when I go to make something that might have a reference like Chappell Roan, maybe, I can take that reference, but maybe I could say, ooh, what would be really cool though is if we put like a Prince guitar in there, or if we put like a Stevie Wonder harmonica in there, or like, what if instead of a super clean guitar, we kind of did a grungy guitar that you would hear in something like Dashboard Confessional. And I think that by taking in a lot of different kinds of music or a lot of different kinds of art in general, when you do get into your place where you need to work, you have a lot more to pull from. If all you do is listen to the same genre, let's say I make hip hop and all I listen to is Drake, Kendrick Lamar, Meek Mill, Baby Keem, Lil Baby, Da Baby, like if that's all I listen to, Travis Scott, it is going to feel very, very referential whenever I make anything in that style because that's all I know. Where if you make hip hop and you do listen to, older hip hop, you listen to Public Enemy, you listen to old soul like Etta James, you listen to, some blues, you listen to some jazz like Herbie Hancock. You can start to incorporate all of that into your hip hop productions where they don't just feel like a generic copy and paste, been done a million times in the genre. So push yourself, push your musical taste. If you're into music enough to want to do this as a hobby or even more so as a career, you should love music enough to kind of get outside of your norm. Go experience new things, go find new artists, go find artists with 800 monthly listeners and invest yourself in them. Go find artists that their music's barely on Spotify. You have to go to an old record shop and crate dig and just pick something random and put it in your record player. Those are the things that to me are so much more inspirational than just having a reference playlist and saying, okay, this is what the vision is today. This is what we need to do. Find that inspiration in art and culture and fashion and, any aspect of your life. Number 4, this is going to be the most simple one yet, and that is that you should actually read your manuals and study the gear whenever you're shopping for gear or whenever you purchase an item. I cannot tell you how many people purchase something, even something really expensive like a synthesizer, and they don't take the time to read the manual or watch a walkthrough video or spend a day working with it. And so since they never really learn it inside and out, it doesn't get used in that many sessions because it feels really overwhelming every time you turn it on. If you download a new plugin from Cradle Audio and you're just kind of shooting in the dark and you don't know exactly, what this knob is doing on Orion and how it's actually working with transients and what the sub is actually hitting, how are you going to know how to actually use that in a mix or in a production? I always say that producers and mixing engineers and engineers in general are problem solvers, and everything that we have at our disposal is a tool to solve that problem. But you would never, see a carpenter build a table and not know how his saw works, or not know how his measuring tape is measured out, or not know how his, table is set. You have to know your tools, and there's so much gear in the world. We have new plugins coming out every single day. We have NAMM coming every year where every single company has new flagship products. I love all of that. I love that we're in the age to have really anything at our fingertips for our disposal. However, don't let that be your excuse to not actually learn it. I would rather see somebody have 8 plugins and know how they work inside and out than somebody have 200 plugins and barely know how to use them and kind of just load up random shit whenever they think it's going to work and just mess around until they find something that's cool. I think that this is my workflow. I get a new piece of gear or I get a new plugin. First, I research it before I buy it or before I download it. If it's interesting, then I'll grab it. And then once I have it in my hand, I'll read the manual, I'll watch walkthrough videos on YouTube, and then I will spend a little bit of time before I ever use it in a session kind of learning the insides and outs, right? If you download Soothe 2, spend 2 hours just sending a bunch of stuff through it, cranking it, using it very gently, trying it on a full mix, trying it on acoustic guitar, trying it on drums. I think that it's really important that everybody has days where you can just kind of test your gear, learn your gear, pay attention to what it's actually doing rather than just buying something, getting that instant gratification, and then just saying, yeah, I'll figure this out later. I promise you're never going to actually figure it out. And that synthesizer that you spent $2,000 on is always going to sit over there and collect dust. So do your research, learn how things actually work. Manuals take a lot of time and effort and money to actually be made. So go ahead and read them. They don't take very long. It's really quick. And if reading is not your style, basically everything that comes out has a walkthrough video. Go spend 20 minutes of your life watching that. I promise you, you will see a huge return on investment for that time. And then the last point that I want to talk about, and this is one that is probably extremely hypocritical as somebody who runs a channel doing tutorials and content, but sometimes you just have to stop listening to everybody. I think that there are so many ways to make a song. There are so many ways to get a certain synth sound. There's no right and there's no wrong. I think that it's that classic adage of, you have to learn the rules so you can learn how to break them. However, so many people are positioning themselves on YouTube or with courses or with Instagram Reels as this is the only way to mix a vocal. This is the only way to program guitar. This is the only way to make a song like Katy Perry. And sometimes I think that it's almost so easy to get information now that you could easily just say, hey, that felt really good. I tried it one time and it worked. I'm just going to go ahead and use that. And you just listen to everybody all the time. So you never develop your own style. You never develop your own taste. You never develop your own creative way of doing things in your productions. And I think that as a learner, I went to school for education. And one of the things that they tell us is like, you want to make sure that your students are learning everything on an educational level. But then there are certain things like life skills that you just have to implement. And you have to see if they are going to work for you. So with school, they can tell you this is how you should study. You should make flashcards. You should read them for 20 minutes every night. You should have your parent recite them to you, and then you'll be ready for the test. However, that doesn't work for everybody. Some people can make a song about the subject that they need to study, and that song can be their study method. Some people can do a dance while they study. Some people don't need to study at all. It's one of those things of there are no right and wrong ways to really do anything. There's a million ways to cook pasta. There's a million ways to record a drum kit. And so I'm glad that there's a lot of information, but I think more people would be a lot better served if you kind of take in all the information and then you filter it out through your own lens of, does this work for me? Is this the sound that I want? Is this workflow applicable for me? Is this something that I can repeat and always get good results with? And if that's the case, throw it in your workflow. However, just be careful. There's so much information out there. You can just get information overload. I see so many people that spend more time watching tutorials than they do actually making music. And to me, even as somebody who makes tutorials, that's heartbreaking. So stop listening to everybody all the time. I appreciate the support on our channel, but not everything I say on here is going to work for you. Not everything I say is going to be the best information. I'm going to say things that 6 months later, I'm not even following because at the time they were working for me. And as I grow and learn and do my own, problem solving, it's something that I phase out. So if somebody sees that video in 2 years and they say, hey, this is how Austin, mixes a vocal in that style, I might not even be doing that anymore. That's why we're always making new content. That's why I'm always trying to give you as much information as possible and saying, hey, this might not be the right way, but this is my way of doing things. And I appreciate that y'all have given me that platform. But if everybody on, YouTube, if everybody on Instagram, if everybody on TikTok is kind of doing that and nobody is saying, does this actually work for me? Why are these two people having conflicting information? Which one is right? Which one is wrong? Maybe neither are right or wrong. Maybe you actually need to follow something that's not in any of that. The best way to do that is actually go sit down, go make a song, go play in your DAW, go mess with your gear, try out things. There's a million records out there that I love the sound of. I would have never made them like that. If I would have sat in that room, I would have been like, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? That doesn't feel right. That doesn't look right. There's a big viral clip going around of Benny Blanco for the first year and a half, 2 years of his career. Every song was on 120 BPM because he didn't know that you could change it inside of Logic or Ableton or whatever. That's insane. That man was having #1 hits and did not know that you could change the tempo. That is a perfect example of how sometimes it's not about what you know, it's just about your ideas and how you can get them out. And so kind of use that as inspiration to say, you know what, maybe today instead of watching 7 tutorials on mixing a vocal, maybe I just go record a vocal and try out a million different things. I could spend that 4 hours trying it out, seeing what works for me. I think it's great that we have a lot of educational content, but you don't have to listen to everybody about everything all the time. So that's going to be my 5 things that I think every producer, songwriter, engineer should try. I think that they help out. They've helped me a lot over the years, but that's going to do it for this video. If you like it, make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe. That helps us out a ton. Also, if you want a chance to win a sample pack, preset pack, MIDI pack from our website, Make Pop Music, all you have to do is leave a comment down below in the first 3 days of this video. And if you want to support us, you can also head over to makepopmusic.com. We have tons of stuff over there. We have full-length courses. We have free content. We have sample packs, MIDI packs. We have Serum presets, all kinds of really, really cool stuff. There is a link for that in the description. But let me know one thing that you think more producers should be doing down in the comments down below. I'm always trying to learn as well. And I'll see you guys next week. Much love. Peace.